The fight just wrapped up between Sebastian Fundora and Carlos Ocampo. And it was interesting for a couple of reasons. But let's be honest with each other. The first thing we got to talk about is the first thing that comes to your mind when you see Sebastian Fundora. And that is, this dude is huge for the division. Man, he is somewhat of a freak. I mean, 6'5", 6'6", 82-inch reach at 154 pounds? I mean, come on. That is ridiculous. Average height for the division is like 5'9". This guy is coming over here and he is just towering over everything. Every single person that steps in there is going to look like a small dude compared to this guy at 154 pounds. And then, just to add another wrinkle to the whole thing, he likes to fight on the inside. Comes in here with these God-given gifts, ridiculous height, ridiculous reach, still wants to fight on the inside, wants to bang. Right, comes in 19-0, 13 knockouts, wants to get inside, stand in the pocket, knock you out with an uppercut. That's just his style. But, like many guys with that, always talks about how he wants to change things up. Always talks about how he wants to box from the outside, and this fight was no different. So he comes into this fight with Ocampo as a heavy favorite, like 8 or 9 to 1. But in the build-up to this one, says he's going to box more. Says he's going to stay on the outside. He's going to use his jab. Tells us that he's going to utilize those gifts that God gave him. Box better from the outside. Be the ring general. You can expect from him, this is what he's saying. You can expect from me what you would expect from a guy who's taller and longer. And to his credit, that's exactly what he did. When this fight started out, first 4 rounds, I think it was, that's exactly what we saw. We saw a man on the outside. We saw him working the jab. We saw him trying to control the distance and the range. Saw him trying to be the ring general. The problem for us, it didn't work out. The problem for him is that he wasn't winning. Steve Farhood on the unofficial card gave 3 of the first 4 rounds to Ocampo. Now, maybe you disagreed with him there, but nevertheless, these weren't clear-cut victories. This wasn't the work of a man who was coming in as an 8 or 9 to 1 favorite. So even though he was boxing this way, even though he was utilizing these things, even though he was trying to do something different that everybody said he should do, then maybe he was physically built for, he wasn't seeing success with it. So then he comes out, starts boxing from the inside, goes back to the Fundora. We know he's in the pocket. He's exchanging, he's throwing hard shots, and he's seeing more success. Now, this fight had something a little interesting happen, something a little bit strange. So after the 7th round, or in between the rounds after the 7th, Ocampo's trainer is telling him, look, you need to show me something. You need to throw hard with both hands. You need to go out there and make it happen. Jack Reese, the referee, is standing over his shoulder, looking at Ocampo in the corner, watching his body language, looking at his eyes. Okay, not good signs. You could see things weren't going well for him, and guys were looking at him like things weren't going well for him. That's not all that abnormal. It happens. But after the 8th round, Jack Reese comes in, and it's like he's talking to the ringside official or the doctor. He's talking to the trainer. He's telling him, he's like, look, I don't like the body language. I don't like what your guy's doing. He's not throwing hard enough shots. If I don't see something from him, I'm going to stop it. And it was kind of insane. Even Al Bernstein was kind of just incredulous about it. And I kind of agree with him, but it was like Ocampo was throwing a lot of punches. I get it. He kind of looked off balance at times. Body language wasn't great, but he was throwing a lot of punches. They weren't necessarily hard punches. They were arm punches. But he was going out there and he was trying. He was putting in effort. He wasn't getting blown out of the water. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't knocked down. He wasn't staggered. It was kind of crazy to think that you would be talking about stopping a fight at that point from what we had seen. It was kind of crazy to think that a referee would insert himself into the fight to that degree, that he's talking about stepping in and doing something. And then on top of it, as soon as he says it, the guy comes out there, throws like 100 punches the next round and wins the round. It was the 9th round. Ocampo won the 9th round. So kind of crazy when it was all said and done. But nevertheless, we saw Fundora come out with the victory. We saw him look good in spots. We saw him struggle a little bit with the jab, trying to work at distance and control the range. We saw him be successful like we always saw him be successful on the inside, throwing hard punches. Now look, this takes us to the question of what's next. He answered that for us in the post-fight interview. He said, I want Charlo. Charlo's got a fight scheduled with, I think it's Zhu, probably can't remember exactly. He's got that scheduled for January. He's got all 4 belts. Fundora is now the WBC mandatory. And he said, I want the winner of that fight. Everybody expects it to be Charlo, but nevertheless, he wants it to be the winner. He wants to go out there and get his shot. And I get it. When you're talking about Charlo, a man who unified the belts at 154 pounds in his last fight, everybody wants a shot at that. Everybody wants to go in there and knock him off the throne. How could you want anything else? But when we saw what we saw tonight, and we saw what Charlo brings to the table, I got to be honest with you. That is not going to be an easy fight for Fundora. I think he's going to come in as an underdog, and rightfully so. Charlo's a man who brings a lot to the table. Now, he's not a perfect fighter by any stretch of the imagination. But he's explosive, fast hands, real power, can punch with both hands, good jab. I think Fundora's going to have some trouble with that. I think he gets hit with a lot of shots. I don't think he moves quite enough, doesn't move his upper body. I don't know how strong he's going to be in the face of a guy who's physically as strong as Charlo is. I don't know how he's going to be able to handle the power that Charlo has, speed that he has. If he can't control the distance and the range against a guy like Ocampo, how's he going to be able to stop Charlo from just coming in and just hitting him with the bums rush, man, and just bringing all the heat that he wants whenever he wants, coming right over the top of that jab with some real power shots? I think it'll be tough for him, but the man said that's what he wants, so maybe that's what we'll be getting. Who knows? Maybe next May, maybe next June, something along those timelines. If Charlo was coming off of a January fight, we could see something like that. Of course, I'm going to tune in. Of course, I'm going to be interested. But if you're asking me right now, I'm going with Charlo in that one. And I think he's going to look impressive when he does it. So should that fight get scheduled, I'll be breaking down the tape, be taking a little bit of a closer look, trying to see exactly how it matches up. You always think about a guy with that type of height and reach being a real problem, being a real puzzle to solve. But the way that he uses it, I think Charlo's able to go in there and have, I don't want to necessarily say have his way, but man, I bet you he looks good. So let me know what you guys think. Am I underestimating what Fundora would bring to the table in that one? How do you think he'd look in tonight's fight? I mean, look, he did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is come out there and beat the man in front of you and get a win. You don't always have to look great, and I'm not saying that he looked bad in this one by any stretch of the imagination. He looked good and he won, but I'm projecting out a little bit. In the post-fight interview, he talked about fighting Charlo, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what he's going to be doing next based off of how he looked, not just how he looked and praising that. So you take tonight's performance, you try to think about how it would look against a man like Charlo. What do you think that's going to come out like? Let me know what you guys think.